wrestling fans. My name is Brian Crazy. You're watching my brand, That from Brand of Wrestling and Entertainment here on YouTube.com and the World Wide Web since 2010, providing you with the wrestling news, reviews, rumors, and insight that you're grown accustomed to. And you saw the title of this video. I am back with my review of TNA Impact Wrestling for last night, November 1st, 2012. It was open fight night. It was a great night on Impact. Several major matches were announced for the Turning Point pay-per-view, which is less than 10 days away now. Now, I can't wait to see Turning Point firsthand and provide you guys with a full review, but let's get on to the Impact review. But before I jump into that review, I want to send out my condolences to the family, friends, and anybody that was touched by the tragic passing of Brad Armstrong yesterday. He passed away at 51 years of age. Brad Armstrong is a former professional wrestler. He's part of a very prominent wrestling family, the Armstrong wrestling family, and his father's Bullet Bob Armstrong. His brothers are the Road Dogg Jesse James and Scott Armstrong, and I really want to send my condolences out to his family and anybody that was touched by this tragedy. Also, I want to send out my condolences to anybody that was affected by Hurricane Sandy. It ravaged my own home state of Connecticut. That's why you guys haven't seen me in the last few days. Fortunately, we're getting back to normalcy where I'm located, but so many parts of my state are completely ravaged, and it's going to take a long time before people are able to rebuild and move on with their lives. Now, like I said, I want to send my condolences out to anybody that lost a loved one, anybody that's inconvenienced, anybody that's distressed, anybody that's hurt, anybody that has been put out, anybody that's homeless, anybody that's been affected by Hurricane Sandy. I want to send my condolences out to you, your family, and anybody else that's involved. Now let's jump into Impact. We start off with the opening promo. Joseph Park comes out, and he calls out a member of the Aces and Eights. It says it doesn't matter if he's a lawyer, it doesn't matter if he's a wrestler, but he's a man, and he needs to man up, and he wants to take on one of these members. Now, he calls out just one, but we end up getting four, and they end up doing kind of the Nexus-style beatdown. They jump up onto the apron, they enter the ring, and this is where Sting and company make the save. Sting vows to unveil one member of the Aces and Eights tonight. He says one member is going to end up unmasked. Then we go into the first match of the night. Magnus comes out and calls out Samoa Joe. He says he's going to expose him for the fraud or the phony that he truly is. And Joe ends up picking up the win over Magnus in this match after Magnus clocks him with a wrench. Now, I had a feeling that this was setting up a potential match for the television title at Turning Point, and we find out a little bit later on the night, in fact, that is what's going to happen. Then we go into a backstage segment with Sting, Hogan, Garrett, and Wes Briscoe. And Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe, who have been rumored to be part of the Aces and Eights, what a perfect way to throw people off. You're smiling in their face while you're working behind their back. I mean, it is perfect. Then we go backstage and we see Joe challenge Magnus to that match at Turning Point, and he says, you want to use weapons? You want to do this? It'll be a no disqualification match at Turning Point. Then we go backstage with Jeff Hardy, and this is another one of those slow-mo segments where we kind of hear Jeff Hardy's inner monologue. Now, last week with my Impact review, I said I really liked this. It was something different. It was something fresh. It was something new. I mean, they have to try new things. Sometimes they'll hit. Sometimes they'll be misses. But I really like this, and I really feel like doing different things is going to help TNA differentiate their product from the other wrestling products that are out there today. Now, we hear Jeff Hardy's inner monologue while he's putting on his makeup, and he's discussing Austin Aries. He's discussing his current feud with the former World's Heavyweight Champion. Then we go down to the ring. Daniels and Kazarian come out, and they start running down Chavo and Hernandez. It looks like they're actually going to call out Chavo and Hernandez on open fight night, but they end up calling out Hector Guerrero and Willie Urbina. Hector Guerrero is the uncle of Chavo Guerrero, the brother of the late, great Eddie Guerrero, which I thought it was fitting for this review to wear this shirt. And basically, Hector's ready to fight. He's ready to throw down. He's a former professional wrestler, and he's not going to take these two insulting his country, insulting Mexicans, and especially insulting his manhood. Now, Willie really doesn't seem too willing to fight at this point until he ends up getting pushed. Now we end up seeing all these guys go back and forth, and Daniels and Kazarian end up beating down on both the Spanish announcers. Chavo and Hernandez make the save, and I have a feeling that this is going to set up a match at the Turning Point pay-per-view. Then we go into the gut check segment. Christian York, former TNA wrestler, actually competed on the very first edition of TNA, the very first weekly pay-per-view back in June 2002, I should say. He's a 15, 16-year veteran of the business. He's in his mid-30s, and in his promo describing himself, he says this could be his last chance. Now, I really like this. They've used guys that are young, up-and-coming, that are green, that are just breaking into the business. Now we get to see a seasoned veteran who may be getting his final chance to make an impact, no pun intended, but to finally make it to a big organization like TNA Wrestling. Christian York and Zema Ion end up having a pretty good match. Christian York missed a few spots. You could tell he had a little ring rust, but he's a solid competitor nonetheless. Now, Zema Ion is very talented, and a lot of people don't like Ion because of the gimmick, but like I always say, put the gimmicks aside. Remember, these athletes are going out there to put on a show for us, the wrestling fans. If you like them, if you hate them, you have to respect them because they go out there and put their necks on the line for us. You can say, yeah, they're doing their job. Yeah, they're working. Do you go to work not to make money? But they're taking the extraordinary step of putting their livelihood on the line. It could be one injury that could end their career, or like in the instance of Droz, basically could end normal life as they know it. Droz will be paralyzed for the rest of his life due to an injury he suffered in a wrestling match. Wrestling which he loved, wrestling which he was passionate about, and wrestling that he just wanted to put on a show for the fans. Zema Ion ended up picking up the win over Christian York with a maneuver he has dubbed Submission Impossible. Now, this is a pretty impressive maneuver, and there wasn't really much of a way out of this. You really couldn't roll out of it. I mean, I guess you could try to shift the body weight this way, but the way he had you held, I mean, basically, it is Submission Impossible. It's impossible to break. Now, of course, any wrestling maneuver could be broken, but I like it. Like I said, not really a fan of the gimmick, but I like the wrestler. Then we go into another backstage segment with Garrett, Bully Ray. They're talking, and then it ends up spilling into a fight. Now, Bully Ray, a couple months ago, after Garrett Bischoff would have approached him and say if it was a similar circumstance, he would have said, buzz off, kid. I don't want nothing to do with you. But tonight he actually shook his hand. And like I said earlier in the review, more just throwing them off the trail. They're smiling in their face while they're working behind their backs. Then we see a fight between the Aces and Eights and the TNA roster. Aces and Eights end up running away, and Sting says, hey, the night is early, and there's still a lot of Impact to go. Then before Tara, ODB, and Jesse Goddard ended up mixing it all up in the ring, we ended up seeing a segment backstage between Tara and Jesse Goddard. I really like the pairing of these two. Great comedy segment. They really feed off each other well. I didn't really know too much about Jesse Goddard. Actually did a little research after I watched Impact Wrestling. He's been training in OVW for the last 2 years. And you could tell in this match, I really didn't know what to expect because, like I said, I didn't know too much about him, to be perfectly honest. I try to know everything about wrestling that I possibly can, but a couple things slip by me. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research. I watch a lot of shoot interviews. I constantly pore over old footage. And you have to learn from history. I'm not saying that you have to dwell in it, but you have to learn from it so you can look toward the future. Excuse me. Then we go down to the ring. ODB versus Jesse, and ODB is just making a mockery at Jesse, just hitting him with the chops. And you can tell Jesse was pretty reluctant to, I don't know if he was reluctant to fight her or reluctant to fight a woman. I don't know what it was. But after Tara provided the distraction, Jesse ended up picking up the win over ODB. Then we go into Jeff Hardy versus Robbie E. Jeff Hardy picks up the quick win over Robbie E. after a twist of fate and a swanton bomb. And then we go into a segment after this match between him and Austin Aries. This sets up the World Heavyweight title match at Turning Point, which we find out was going to be a ladder match after Jeff Hardy sets up the ladder, climbs high up on the ladder, and challenges Aries to this kind of match, to the stipulation added to that World title match. Now, Austin Aries seemed pretty reluctant. He goes, I'm a wrestler, I'm not a ladder climber, and he ends up walking away without accepting Jeff Hardy's challenge. Then we go into a segment at Hogan's Beach Shop. It's Hulk Hogan's new store, and he's confronted none other by Matt Morgan. Now, Matt Morgan's taken exception with the way he feels like he's been treated by TNA's management, including Hulk Hogan, Dixie Carter, this, that, or the other. He shows up at Hogan's Beach store and basically embarrasses Hogan. I mean, I actually felt bad for Hulk for just a minute. Morgan's playing just such a good heel, and that's, we're supposed to be able to have the suspension of disbelief. We're watching a show that's providing entertainment. So sometimes you have to sit back, not as an analysis, but as a fan, not as an analyst, and not providing analysis, but sit back as a fan and just enjoy the product for a little bit. And that's what I did with this segment, and I really did. I think they're pushing Morgan as this monster heel. He ends up grabbing one of Hulk's robes. It was actually the one he wore at Shea Stadium. He says he's going to make more history with it than Hogan ever did. Then we go into the ring. We see Robert Roode, AJ Styles. These two end up going back and forth. And then James Storm comes out with Hulk Hogan. A #1 contenders match is announced for Turning Point, and the loser cannot contend for the world title. He cannot face the world champion to next year's Bound for Glory pay-per-view. The stakes in this match just got raised huge. I mean, huge stakes in this match. One of these competitors is not going to be able to be world champion for pretty much the better part of the next year. Then we go into Joey Ryan versus RVD. Joey Ryan ends up stealing the win in this match, but that's what he does. I mean, this is the sleaziest guy on the Impact roster. That's his gimmick. And I mean, when he came out, I don't know, he looked like a porn star to me tonight. Every time I see this guy, all jokes aside, but every time I see this guy, I think of Anchorman. I think of Ben Stiller's character in Anchorman. Spanish language news, bitches. The rivers are going to run red with Burgundy's blood. I mean, that's if you've seen Anchorman, I'm sure you guys know what I'm saying. But Joey Ryan ended up stealing the win in this match, and I like during the AJ segment that he mentioned, the little situation that happened between him and Dixie Carter, that girl Claire Lynch, this, that, or the other, and then he name dropped AJ from WWE. He says, well, if your name's AJ, you get involved in controversy. So I like that. I like that. He didn't say he disliked AJ. He just said he felt her plight. And we also find out next week on Impact, AJ Styles versus Robert Roode in a singles match, a little preview of what's going to happen at Turning Point. And then we go into the final segment of the night. It is supposed to be Bully Ray versus Devon one-on-one. Bully Ray called out Devon on Open Fight Night. This ends up breaking down before the match even starts. Aces and Eights, Impact Wrestling roster come down. They're all fighting, and we do get the promised unmasking. One member of the Aces and Eights is unmasked, and it is none other than Luke Gallows. Festus, Drew Hankinson, former WWE superstar. He's been rumored to be part of the Aces and Eights since the inception of this group. It was never known if he was actually going to be revealed on TV as a member of the Aces and Eights. It was never actually known if any of the members of the Aces and Eights would be revealed past Devon, which we found last week. But in fact, he is revealed as a member of the Aces and Eights stable, and this goes along with reports back on September 4th. He confirmed via social media that he signed a TNA contract. Now, we didn't see him. We didn't know if he was at OVW. We didn't know if he was part of the Aces and Eights, but that was the rumor, and in fact, it was correct. Luke Gallows is the second confirmed member of Aces and Eights to come out on television to add alongside Devon. Now, I thought it was a pretty good night on Impact. Everybody was looking for that reveal, and we got it. Now, I can't wait to see what happens next week. I can't wait to see the Turning Point pay-per-view next week. Now, I want you guys to drop your thoughts below, drop your feedback below, because that's what it's all about. It's all about interacting. You got to hear some of my thoughts. Now I want to hear yours. Thanks for being loyal fans and subscribers of the F and Brand of Wrestling and Entertainment here on YouTube.com. I could not do it without you. I hope you have a great afternoon. I hope everybody's safe out there. And like I said, my condolences to anybody that was touched by the tragic events of Hurricane Sandy. I'll catch you later.